to be joined by Gavin Hastings. Gavin, after a couple of tech issues, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, Nick, and good to be on. I'm looking forward to our chat.
So, listen, we've worked together for a long time. I should start by saying, and I think my opening thing was about the speaking industry. How for you have you had to change and adapt what you're talking about and how you approach your speech, especially as you straddle the border of like the after dinner scene and the business keynote motivational speaking?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I think there's no doubt that speaking over the years, you build up a library of stories, if you like, that you traditionally will go down pretty well. And I'm always conscious that you have to be as relevant as possible as a sports person. Clearly, the stories and the fun that you have, you just wonder whether it's relevant to a modern audience. And clearly, you have to be very much aware of the audience that you're speaking to, and I think I'm always very conscious. I'm very aware of that, and but equally, I suppose my sport of rugby union, it revolves around the characters that you used to play with, and the stories that you have, and the people that you come into contact with. I have a son who's a professional rugby player as well, and I guess that sort of keeps me relatively up to date. I still am in tune with my sport, and I enjoy that. But I guess just being out and about and speaking to lots and lots of people, you realise that sometimes some of the old stories are what people want to hear, and that's good. And then mixed in with leadership, team building, just everything that's to do with being responsible for a team and motivating a team is all relevant, I guess, when it comes to business lessons as well.
And so I've got a couple of questions I'll ask in turn. How in your day, which was still amateur and starting the professional era, the camaraderie was obviously there and a critical aspect of why you were playing the sport. Has that been lost? We are now we're in the professional era of rugby.
No, I don't think so. I mean, for me, as an amateur rugby player, we always had to go back into an office or a place of work after the weekend, and I found that incredibly difficult when you're playing in front of 50, 60,000 people on a Saturday night, maybe in Paris, in Wales, in Dublin, in London, and then having to be back in your place of work by 9 o'clock on the Monday morning. And I found that incredibly difficult. And it was a lot easier if you'd won at the weekend to go back in and you were with your work colleagues, and they'd come up and obviously they'd give you a pat on the back, or they want to know what had happened over the weekend. If you'd had a bad game on the previous Saturday, then they would give you a pretty hard time, and it would be not a nice experience. I guess my thoughts about modern day rugby is that, if you're playing, let's say for your country, you're playing international rugby at the weekend, and then you do have to come back into your club, obviously over 2 or 3 days later, then there's no escape from rugby. They're professional rugby players, and there's no escape. It's just doing that repetitively, week in, week out. Whereas, of course, we had a job to go back to and concentrating on your job. So I think as far as I'm concerned, we had the best of both worlds. We had the opportunity of playing in front of 50, 60,000 people at the weekend, but also getting an escape from that pressure cooker environment, and just getting an escape from rugby, and colleagues bringing you back down to earth pretty quickly and saying, never mind you having a match-winning performance at the weekend, get on with your day-to-day job here, Gavin. And that's what I enjoyed, just having the contrast between the sport and working as well.
I think that's fascinating. Can I ask, kind of off the back of that? Obviously, certainly in the world that we exist in terms of speaking, in terms of these conferences, the ties between peak performance and leadership in sport and kind of so easily fit into the business environment and can help us improve in the business environment. Is it something you were conscious of when you were playing sport, or did you only work that out, I suppose, retrospectively?
It's a really good question, that, and I do relate to this. That I remember my last couple of years of playing rugby for Scotland. We had a sports psychologist that came into our camp, and I remember the very first thing he said to us was, write down 5 reasons why you're in the Scotland team, as an example. And he always tells this story about my brother Scott and I, who I played with for many years. We finished within about 5 seconds of writing down 5 things. And some of my colleagues were still, after the first couple of things they'd written down, still wondering on their 3rd, 4th, or 5th point as to why they were in the national side. And it just became apparent to me after 3 or 4 sessions with this person that I had done all these things without even thinking about it, and having self-belief and confidence and massive enjoyment of playing with your peers. And these things all came naturally to me without, as I say, thinking about it. And it's really weird because it comes naturally to you. You can't actually understand why it doesn't come naturally to a lot of other people. And I guess that maybe in a funny way, it's what marks you out as somebody that's just a bit different. You play 10 years for your country and play 10 years for the British and Irish Lions over a number of tours and play in World Cups. That, playing 10 seasons at that level is not something that everybody does, and yet it seemed to me to be the most natural thing that I wanted to do. And there then came a time that you thought, right, I've given my all to this. I'm not sure I can commit to this every year, because of course every year you have to work that bit harder. You have to keep challenging yourself. You have to keep challenging your teammates, and it's no different in a work environment. And you just have to keep finding new ways of doing business and improving the whole time. And companies that stand still will never get anywhere, and teams that stand still will never get anywhere. They'll just go backwards. So I think there's massive lessons that you can learn from sport and transfer them into a business capacity. And that's what I love doing. I love speaking to people. I've been a people person my whole life, and I enjoy the company of people, and I enjoy looking into their eyes and seeing what motivates them. And that's what I get a lot of pleasure out of nowadays, when you do speak to people and see the smiles on their faces and go, you know what, that's really good. I like that, and I'm going to take that forward. And they only need to take 2 or 3 bits of information, bits of nuggets that they've maybe not heard before. And you can't expect to change people's mindsets or whatever, but give them a couple of things to maybe just transfer their own personal behaviors on, and that's going to make a big difference to their lives.
Gavin, I think on that note, and a kind of very poignant note, I'd like to say thank you so much indeed for your time, and been a pleasure speaking to you.
You're very welcome. I enjoyed that.